Oh, hello, Cirrus here. I was just watching ElhayM's stream, and I got inspired to make this video because of how salty he is against Zerg. He was talking about how much he hates playing against Zerg and how bullshit he thinks they are, and I'm sitting here at Top Masters, rank 5 right now in all of NA, with a 68% win rate against Zerg, so I'm like, maybe I'm doing something that some people should be aware of. Not to say that anything that I'm doing makes perfect sense or is the ideal way to play, but at a level around probably anywhere between Platinum and High Masters, I think the build that I've been doing, the opening that I've been doing, the general mindset I have is one of pretty good effectiveness. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what I've been doing lately in this matchup. This map is Waystation. It's against Mandy Moore, who is, I think, rank 50 GM right now, or around there. And basically, I have a really easy time against him on this map. Not to say that I slaughtered him or anything, but I think at least with how we both opened, and this is usually the case when I do this build, I come out ahead with my pressure. Now, a lot of Terrans like to do some sort of pressure early. Usually it involves Hellions and Banshees, or just Hellions in general. But what I've been doing is doing a mine drop, sort of like you would do in TvP, but in TvZ. It works really well for me 9 times out of 10. Occasionally things will go wrong, and it's almost always my fault. So I feel with this build, you can be in a really good position no matter what. And also, it sets you up for basically any sort of game. Because you can go 2-base off it, you can go 3-base, you can play totally macro, or you can go for an all-in. Basically all your options are open. So what it is I stole this build from Drunken Boy a long time ago and modified it. So you go for a standard 12-12, that's all normal. You get your Reaper first. You go for the safe 2 depot wall off before your CC, which is a little bit different from usual, I think, because 2 Reaper you have the reactor building for so long. That's true in this case too. Basically, it's just safety. On this map, you could probably get away with not doing it, but also having that depot up that much earlier just helps so you don't get distracted later and build your depot late. So what I do is I go for only 1 Reaper. Now that's a big difference from most openers where you go either 2 or 3. 1 Reaper is what I prefer because I feel like my control of Reapers is really bad in situations where I have more than one of them. Maybe I should rephrase that. It's not that my control of Reapers is that bad, it's more the fact that I have a hard time multitasking. With 1 Reaper, you get all the scouting information you need, it's not an overcommitment. So it's basically just about scouting at this point. I feel like 2 Reaper on maps like this, where it's too big, it feels like you're not really going to get any drones killed, so I feel like it's just more effective to go for 1, at least for me. Because that way I get the same amount of scouting information, but I don't make that commitment. I get this factory up earlier, I get the Marines up earlier, which is the big thing. See, what I do is I went for that 12-12, while this reactor was building, I went for my command center, and then I built my factory immediately after. I went for a mine while building 2 sets of Marines. Or 3 sets of Marines, sorry. So I have a total of 6 Marines and 1 mine. And I have a couple of Hellions on the map now, scouting around to see what he's doing. So he actually got some cute scouting in. This should never really happen. If you can deny this at all, that's great. Of course, he sees it really late, so that's pretty good for me. I'm going to slow this down right now. So basically, this actually goes really bad for me, because I lose that Hellion for free. I wasn't paying attention. Derpy, derpy me. But he moves out with his Lings. He does see this coming, and he does build a Spore, maybe not immediately, actually, he doesn't in this game. So I'm able to drop in here. This mine is able to do 2 things. First off, it kills a significant amount of drones, killed 5 drones. But more importantly, it pulls him off the line, and it forces him to react. Now, him reacting is a lot more important than the drones being killed. So that buys me time to do whatever I want. And in this case, I'm going to go for the more greedy 3cc and 2 barracks. Now, you can see here that this timing is much later for a third than most macro games. I'm getting my third around 8:30. That's a lot later than a more standard 6:30 to 7-minute third. And the price I pay, that's the price I pay for this early aggression. Now, in this game, I actually don't even use the Hellions very much. In fact, I'm really inactive with them, which is pretty bad for me. But I do get in his base, and I'm able to just prolong whatever he's doing. You can see here that He's built a lot of Lings. This might be build order wise. He might have been going for Ling aggression, which would be kind of odd choice on this map just because it is so long. But he really doesn't have any drones at all. You can see here that I actually have one more SCV than he has, which is really, really, really good in any situation. If you have more supply than the Zerg, they're in a bad spot at basically any point, unless something's really odd. But anyways, I go for +1/+1. My timing is a little bit bad here. This should, ideally with this build, it should be started at 9:30 at the latest. So it's pretty economical. It's slightly delayed, but in theory, the amount of economical damage you do, see I killed 11 workers here, should offset that. So that's something that I'm completely fine with at this point. Basically, at this point, he only has 55 workers, and they're really late. He is like 2 minutes late for how many workers he has. So he just has a lot less stuff. And that means I can go in for this sort of odd pseudo push, and this is where my playstyle deviates a lot from a lot of other people. Because I go for these pushes long before I have 1-1. In fact, I'm being really dumb here. I haven't even started 1 armor yet. But the idea behind these pushes, these pokes and prods here, is that I engage as effectively as possible, and whenever banelings come, I load up into my medevacs with everything that is in the mine, and I try to mitigate the damage. Now, the thing that this does is, even if I don't trade as effectively as I could, he's forced to continuously build units that aren't mutas, and that aren't drones, which is a really good situation to be in, because everything he does is delayed. Once you get this critical mass of mutas, everything becomes much harder in TvZ. Once they have those mutas out, you lose all map awareness, you lose your map presence, you have to wait until he's on your side of the map to go out for drops. Basically, the later you delay his mutalisks, the more of a good situation you're in, at least for this build. So I'm doing this odd sort of pseudo-poke, where I don't really lose a lot. I control it pretty poorly, so I do lose more than I could, but all in all, this playstyle, I feel it's pretty good, at least at this level, which is why I really like it. Now, basically the follow-up is that you go for 5 racks. You should really add on reactors faster than this. Should also probably start Combat Shield. I think I do like a Zan timing with Combat Shield. It's okay, he's my bro. I can make fun of him. But, and also my factory's late and I'm floating tons of minerals. So that's all bad. If I had these reactors earlier, that wouldn't have happened, because I'd have a lot more of mineral sink. But as it is, I'm going here, I'm getting that situated. Again, I have 58 workers, which isn't fantastic, but it's also not bad. And it's at this point where I've sort of slowed down in my pressure. I've sort of let him stabilize, and he's finally getting up to the drone amounts he wants at 12:30, which is way later. If you look at the production tab, his Spire is done, but he doesn't have mutas yet, because of how effective I've been able to be at making him make units, and making him not make drones. I feel like something is kind of off here, because he just doesn't have a lot of gas banked. He really should at this point, so I'm not exactly sure what's happening there. But if they're going for 3 mutas at 13 minutes, that's not very good for the Zerg, even if they are going 3 base and not 2 base. So all in all, I feel like I'm in a really good spot here to do some damage. Now my +1 is finished. My +1 armor isn't close to done because I've been really dumb this game, but it's on the way. And now I feel like I can really get something done as long as I don't commit. Also, Combat Shield should be done. But even without those things, even with all the mistakes I've made, the fact is that he just doesn't have the stuff he needs to hold this off. I'm able to go in here and do a lot of damage for basically free. Looking at the Resources Lost tab, it's not that much different, but I have just as much income as he's had for the entire game. I think my income's actually higher just because of mules and stuff. So everything's just going really well for me at this point. And at this point it just becomes basically a normal game. Ling Bay Muta versus Marine. But the difference is, his creep spread is actually way better than it should. I should have been really much better at defending this. Which you can be, depending on how well you're able to pressure. But in this situation, I feel really, really good. Because all he has on the ground is mostly Lings with a few Banelings. As long as he doesn't get really good surrounds, I'm going to be fine. It's not going to matter how much stuff he has, assuming it's all Lings and Mutas. Because it's really the Banelings that matter at this point. When you're fighting on creep. So, a lot of people say you should never fight on creep. I think the main thing you should think of is that if there are a lot of banelings, you really shouldn't go on creep. If they mostly have only Lings and Mutas, like if right now he has like 7 banelings before a lot of them died. If he has that many, you can go on creep all day. It's not going to matter. If you're clumped up, it doesn't matter, because the surface area is less, you're going to take less damage. So if you can get a situation like this, there's nothing the Zerg can do. You can see here that this game is basically over. I have 60 more supply than a Zerg. He has no saturation at his 4th. I have my 4th up. I have a PF. I have pretty much everything going for me that I want. The one thing that I'm missing right now is the second factory, which is something that I always screw up on, but you don't have to do that. If you make it at 13 minutes or whatever is standard, I think it's around 12 to 13, you get the drilling pause. That's great. That's fantastic. The main idea behind my build is to delay drones and delay mutas so that they have to make Lings and Banes instead. If that happens, even if I do crazy stupid stuff like this, where I almost lose everything, it's not going to matter. He's just not in a place where he can ever kill this army. Now I'm just going to speed through this, because this game is basically over. And as you can see, there's basically nothing he can do. He doesn't have... He has 2-2, he's fine on upgrades. I think I have... Yeah, my upgrades are done, so... But the game is basically over. I just keep on going in here until he finally leaves the game. He has no saturation here. He has a little bit of saturation here. That's a good way to tell the health of the Zerg, is past like 14 minutes, how many drones do they have at their 4th? If it's fully saturated, they're probably in a good spot. If they have nothing there, they're in a really bad spot. If they have nothing at their 3rd, if their 3rd dies, they're probably dead. So yeah, that's basically what I've been doing for the last couple months in this matchup. Obviously, I don't always do this, but I feel like this opener is very flexible. One thing it does struggle against is, of course, all-ins on the ground. Roach Bane timings are much harder to hold if you don't build Banshees, which is kind of the standard hold for an all-in. So a lot of the time, if they go for those unit compositions, it can die. But if you do scout it early enough and you get out when maybe 1 or 2 safety tanks against that sort of all-in, you're probably going to be okay. I can't really say much else about the build besides, or without loading another replay of stuff happening. I don't know any replays I have right now that would really fit what I'm talking about as far as dying to a Roach Bane all-in. But basically, as long as you play safe, and as long as you're not that scared at the same time, I know that those are two conflicting ideas, is that playing safe but also not playing scared. If you can do that, if you can get in and you can see what's going on, and you know when all-in's coming and you can react in time, I don't think there's any way this build can just build order loss. It's really hard for it to do that. Now, of course, I don't see a lot of Koreans doing this build, so you should keep that in mind. It's not ideal, probably. Maybe at one point they'll adopt this sort of playstyle, but at this point it's not used in the highest level of play, but it's done me wonders in High Masters to low GM. So if you're interested, you might want to check it out. I'll post the build order below. And thanks for watching. This is the first video I've ever actually made on StarCraft, so that's pretty cool. I made it on a whim when I was watching ElhayM stream because I was tired of seeing how butthurt he was. So if you watch this ElhayM, thank you for inspiring me. Besides that, thank you for watching. Have a good day. I'm out. I don't think that stopped it. I think I'm still recording. I am still recording. Alright, I'm done. I'm done. See ya.